Cheers, my friend.
Cheers, man.
It's good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you too. Well, I see you usually weekly. Well, it's been a couple weeks, but we do spend a lot of time together. People don't know, but we spend a lot of time. We do men's nights and we do cigar nights and we go out for dinner and we hang out. So,
well, we got to fit it in as much as we can. I mean, life is crazy nowadays. It seems like every time you scroll through social media, it's just like the world is on fire. And I think a lot of people just kind of forget that. I mean, just what's happening far on the other side of the world. It's as horrible as it may sound. Yep. It's just there's not really much you can do. I think that's something I've really been trying to work on lately myself. Is just focus on what I can control. And, I can't fix the world, from here in Central Texas if there's stuff happening in Ocean and away. But what I can do is, foster those good relationships and just, making sure that we are connecting with some good, like-minded individuals. I was actually, it's funny that we're talking about this. I took a deep dive into some human psychology. I don't know why, just on a whim one day. And of course, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Yep. Of course, you need shelter, you need food, you need water. But then right above that, though, is the need for connection and a sense of belonging and community and everything like that. That's what comes next. And, I'm an archaeologist, and I was looking into this as well. It's just, the whole idea of the lone wolf. I mean, we see that in, films like James Bond.
John Wayne.
Exactly, John Wayne. Yep. It's just, you see these highly capable men operating alone.
Which is not wrong.
It's not wrong. And it's cool. Mm-hmm. It definitely is definitely cool to be self-sustaining in that way. But if you want to go back a few thousand years ago, maybe even sooner than that, just as well too, is just you always wanted to try to be part of the community. Being a community meant shared resources, protection, everything like that. And to be ostracized for the group could potentially lead to death. That could be a death sentence. Yeah. So I think that's something we really need to think about in this day and age, is making sure that we can have good people around us. Yeah. And of course, our case, we
fostering good community.
Exactly. And of course, we think we have that in social media if we have, let's say, a large follower count. But it's just, if we do have a large follower count, I mean, how many of those people could we actually just
really
call?
Connected with? Yeah, who we could call at 2 a.m. if we were in a tight spot.
Exactly.
And needed some help. Coming back from the airport and blow a tire, whatever it is. I mean, we could go. I mean, I was out drinking too much or something and I'm in a bad position, or I got in a fight, or who knows? I mean, whatever men deal with, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, not a lot of men, I think, truly have that person. Or what if you got in trouble and you went to the police department for the night and needed somebody to come pick you up from there? I mean, truly, do we have somebody that can come truly help us and be there for us in those moments? I think you and I are trying to foster that. That's why we're trying to build this community here in San Antonio, Texas, where we live, and trying to have, build those good friendships with men that if we are in a tight spot, whatever that tight spot might look like, they will be there for us.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty damn confident that I know that I have a couple guys in that position that would do that for me and have done that for me already.
Well, for sure. And then of course, now in our case, a lot of what we do is, we have men's cigar nights and everything. Yep. And then of course, for the men that do join us, there is no pressure to actually smoke cigars if it's not your thing.
Or drink or anything.
Or anything like that. Yeah. It's just, it's about fellowship, come out here. We'll have some good conversations. I mean, and during a couple of our cigar nights, I mean, a couple of guys have opened up a couple of times. It's like, man, y'all, I'm struggling with this right now. It's like, any advice for me? Or maybe they're not even really looking for advice. Maybe it's just they're tired of just carrying this around with them alone, and they just need to talk about it, really.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that we've been trying to intentionally foster that, and because you and I know we need that, but you and I now have done a good job of reaching out to our community here. Not that we've had, these are just guys we've recently met, honestly, within the last couple of years, and are trying to build those relationships with. But we're doing it in a way that's authentic and real, and no pressure. Yes, this is how men stand up for each other and for community. But at the same time, there's no pressure here. You don't have to show up any certain way. We're all at different stages of our life, going through different problems, different circumstance, right?
Yeah, and then of course, cigar nights is just one way to do it too. Yeah. And of course, you and I, we've done martial arts in the past, and getting on the jiu-jitsu mats or getting into the Muay Thai gym. It's just, I was doing jiu-jitsu last week, and during this particular class, it was like a smaller, intimate setting because I went during like lunchtime. Of course, it's going to be not quite as busy as like some of the nighttime classes, but even still, there were 3 black belts there. And then, of course, my crazy ass, in order to, I think my way to ascend a little bit more is I go and I ask the black belts, and I just say, hey,
dive right in, baby, right to the deep end.
could you roll with me? Now, a lot of people may be intimidated to do that. Obviously, there is the gap in skill, but there's also that gap in experience. Yeah. And I think sometimes a lot of people are reluctant to ask the more experienced people for help because they don't want to look stupid or incompetent or struggle in front of them or think they're going to like lose face or anything like that. But the reality is this, that, and you and I, we've talked about this last time you were on the show, is that I never get criticism from the top.
No.
Ever. Like any criticism I may get, it's usually from people who aren't doing what I'm doing.
Negative criticism.
Exactly. So, and because I think there's just that idea is that, hey, they were in my shoes at some point in time. They were a white belt just like I
There's
am.
an understanding.
Exactly.
It's a humbleness. It's being humble. It's an understanding that we all have to climb up that mountain, and we're all at a different pace. We're all a different way of doing it. There's different directions. There's different, paths to that place. And truly, we're never to the top. So I think the humbleness that comes from that, I know I've been humbled a lot over the last few years in my own ways. It's like an understanding, like if somebody is in a different position than I am, and I don't want to say underneath me, but maybe they're not as far along as me. Like I have a humbleness to that, and I'm here to lift you up, bring you up, critique you in a healthy way, but not bring you down. It's always to bring you up out of love, out of care, out of kindness.
Well, and then of course you're not going to know everything. I mean, especially when you go and you try something new. I mean, I've joined you on a couple of hunting camps, and that's a new world for me. And then of course, you've gotten a lot of questions from me. It's like, okay, where do I cut the into this pig? Where do I shoot the pig exactly when I fire at it? It's just
how should I be set up when I'm shooting at an animal like this? Like all the things, right? All those questions that somebody might put you down for a certain group of people might put you down because you don't know how to do that, you've never done that before, like versus somebody like me in that position who I've been doing this my whole life, but I also want to see you thrive and I want to see you become more efficient in those things, right?
Yeah, and I've even had mentors in my job as an archaeologist where they will give me a certain order. They want me to do a report a certain way or whatever the case may be, for example, and I'll ask them, why are we doing it this way? Not as like to show defiance, like I'm trying to question the order, but I'm trying to get an understanding because like I want to approach future tasks that way if that's the way that it's expected to be, and if that's going to show that good professional demeanor, if you will, in order to do it correctly. And then, of course, you've probably even heard questions like that when we were out in hunting camp, and I'm like, okay, wait, so why exactly am I supposed to stay in the blinds before the 4x4s that get to me? And then you would explain, well, because your scent, you're tracing it like everywhere if you're walking around. If you stay in just this one central location, that'll minimize the scent, and then it'll keep the hogs coming back to the feeders or deer coming back to the feeders. If my scent's all over the place, then they're probably not going to show up, even if there's food on the ground. I could scare them away that way. So it is just, again, having like those people who know those things that you don't know and that are willing to teach you, and that you got to be humble enough, like you said, to admit that you don't know everything, and just go ahead and ask those questions.
Correct.
I mean, it's fine. It's fine.
Exactly. Nah, man, I always appreciate that about you, and I think you probably appreciate me for that too. We both, I think, do a good job of trying to harness that in our life, right? We try to bring the people around us who are going to uplift us, teach us, be not hard on us in a negative way, but tell us the truth when we need the truth, but at the same time also encourage us and help clarify things for us that need to be clarified, or just help us along. So I always appreciate that. I just wanted to say, man, this is kind of fun to be back on. I haven't done a podcast for a couple of years. Took a little bit of a break, took a step back from doing these things. And you and I were out for cigars, 3 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago? And we were talking about kind of this new season of life that you're in. I've been through a new season of life as well. That's just life. That's just what life is all about. There's things change, we grow. We go on new paths, new seasons. And I think I just want to kind of clarify like why we're having this conversation. Like this is kind of like a changing season for for me, but it's also a changing season for you. So I thought it'd be kind of fun. I think I brought it up. Like, how cool would that be for you and I just to jump on and like, you don't have to get deep on personal life stuff necessarily, but we can talk a little bit more about what's going on, how you're changing, how there's some growth in your life, some new things that are happening, because it's usually just you here talking by yourself or with another guest, you asking them questions, but you never get to be the one who is asked questions, right?
I think I've already talked like more at the beginning of this conversation that I do most of the time. So, yeah.
So I guess that's kind of what I want to present to the people who are listening is like me, Collin Cottrell, is here with Josh to kind of he's my guest in a way on his podcast today, in a sense, right? Because we thought it would be really cool to kind of change this around. This is kind of what you're calling the end of a podcast season, I guess.
Yeah, this will be like the current season 5 finale of the podcast. However,
5 seasons.
Yeah, 5 seasons already of doing the show. However, going along with what you just said about chapters of life and kind of flipping pages and everything like that as life goes. This may or may not be potentially the series finale of the All Around Adventure podcast. That has yet to remain seen. However, this will most certainly be the last episode before I take an indefinite production break with the All Around Adventure podcast. Okay. And it is kind of tough to think about it this way because you know how it is when you build something and you really kind of like to just really sort of see it through. It feels weird to kind of like let it go, or at least that's what it seems like. However, I'm trying to sort of reframe that idea, and that is that this is going to be a completed project. Yeah. If this does, in fact, turn out to be the last episode that I ever record for the All Around Adventure podcast. And I think what's one of the things that brought on this decision is that I mean, of course, one of the biggest changes in my life that we had since the last time we had you on the show is, of course, now I'm in a relationship and for about a year and a half now, that's been going pretty well. And then, of course, we talk about this all the time. It's just that one of the key roles about being a man is to be a provider. Yeah. And doing this podcast takes a crazy amount of time. Yeah. Everything from trying to track down guests, email them, invite them to come on the show, schedule them, interview them, edit their episodes, and then try to clip up the episodes, edit the audio, edit the video, upload everything. It's
a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
And you are very steady. You are very, you are very integrated into that. That's integrated into your life. It's part of your life, or has been for many years now.
Yeah, exactly. But of course, going along with this idea of changing chapters, moving on to next chapters, well, the world changes very rapidly too. I mean, you and I are about like the same age. I mean, you and I grew up in the era of like 8-bit video games. Yeah. Now we have like freaking virtual reality and everything like that. You can
AI virtual reality.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just the stuff that was deemed like futuristic and everything like that. It's all here, like self-driving cars, AI. And it's just like, you can have like, an AI system like write an entire book for you and everything like that. It's just absolutely crazy. I mean, and then of course, even things like we've gone through the iPhone, like all like MP3s, all this stuff. And then, I mean, we can even go a little bit further back. I mean, does anyone even remember what Blu-rays are? Of course, but
CDs,
we lived through that. And then of course, and a lot of people might not know this, but before like Netflix and Prime Video, you used to actually have to go to like a Blockbuster, pick up a VHS tape.
Those were the days.
Do people even know what VHS tapes are? So the world is just changing so rapidly, and then of course,
and even more in the last few years.
Exactly, and now there was something that I was looking into, and I may actually get this term wrong, but there's a term out there. I believe it's evolutionary mismatch, and that is that as we are as humans, Homo sapiens, our brains are pretty much almost like the exact same way that they were with our ancestors thousands of years ago. I mean, brain evolution takes a very, very, very long time. We'll just put it that way. But of course, what were our ancient ancestors having to process mentally back then? And it was really just whatever was in their immediate vicinity. But nowadays, with the advent of like the smartphones and again, streaming and everything like that, what is happening an ocean away, people are bringing into their living rooms now. And I personally don't think that our brains have evolved to process that much stimuli. I mean, here we are. You and I were sitting at this table. We're sitting in front of each other, recording this conversation. It's just we can only see so far. We got the walls. We got the walls around us and everything. It's like this is our world. Like, I mean, nothing else as far as we know. If something is happening far on the other side of the world, we're not going to know about it.
Correct.
But people are going to know about it because, of course, like 24-hour news cycles, social media, and all these other things.
Instant news cycles.
Exactly. It's like they're looking at it through like literally a window to the world, if you will. And so that's a little side thing there. But what I was trying to go along with that is that also, so the world of podcasting has changed as well. I mean, for a while, it was this exciting new technological frontier. Yeah. And just these conversations that people were having and people were listening to and everything. And, like a lot of people would just tune into it on, let's say, a drive to work or in their downtime or whatever the case may be. But of course, the world of podcasting, I think at this point in time has been monopolized quite a bit. I mean, Joe Rogan is dominating the space. The Jocko podcast is dominating and so many others. And also just the idea of long form content in general. I mean, I'm not sure if it's really has much of a viable place now as it once did.
Unless you're already that established.
Exactly. So, because I mean, now it's just like if the content that you create doesn't take like 7 seconds, then it's like, forget about it. I mean, it's just like attention spans in the modern day kind of fall off pretty quickly.
Correct.
Because there's so much of it out there now too. So case in point here is just that, even though I do have like spouts of like high viewership, low viewership, or listenership, I guess I'll say with the All Around Adventure podcast, and I do get some ad revenue for the show. I do kind of see that like to be the provider that I want to be, for this woman that I love is just I kind of got to think about something else, and well, what can I do to potentially like make money? And then so some of the things I'm kind of thinking about right now is
and I want to cut you off before you go into this because
go ahead.
Because I want to commend you. Cheers.
Mm-hmm.
She's first of all, she's a wonderful woman.
Mm-hmm.
She's a wonderful person. We've got to spend some time together. And what's happening, Josh, and I've been married, so I know some of these things. I know this is really your first major relationship, right? Which you went through a lot of, you're older now and you've matured and she's matured and I love that.
Yeah, dating in the 2020s is rough.
Yeah. It wasn't an easy path, but you've got to this point now where you're with this person that you truly love, you truly care about. You guys have a wonderful relationship. It's real. It's authentic. It's not perfect. But your priorities have shifted and changed in a wonderful way. And I've seen that growth and you have seen that you come down this path in a very authentic way. It's very admirable to me. And so it's really cool to see this change in you in a good way. You kind of started this off by saying like, this isn't like you just cutting ties on something. Like you've completed this. Like you have worked really hard at this podcast. You have put your heart and soul into it. You have connected with your followers on a weekly, daily basis. You have put everything. You've shifted as you've needed to shift. You've put everything into this. And now you're at this point in your life where you have to see a different picture. And it's the bigger picture of your life currently, right? And so it's really cool to see that growth in you on the other side of this table, right? As your friend, and see how she's not forcing you to change in any way.
No.
But you as a man are seeing this change and how you are understanding like, I need to provide. And as we advance in our relationship and potential marriage or whatever that looks like someday in the future, I'll let you guys figure that out. You're looking ahead. You're planning for the future, which is a wonderful thing. And so you're looking at this as a whole, like, can I sustain this podcast that is even worth my time? And not that the people who listen and tune in on a day, on a daily, weekly, monthly basis aren't important. They are. You just have had a shift in what you need to approach now in your life. And so that's just maturity. That's just growth. And that's you seeing that my priorities are shifting. It's going a new direction. It's a change in the season. And that's okay. The path it's a different path now. We all have those situations where we have to take a left now. We might have been walking straight, but now we have to take a left and kind of go down a new path. So it's really cool, like to see you build into that and grow into that. And I'm excited because you and I, like I said, kind of what we preface this conversation with is we spent time together. I know a lot about you that a lot of people don't know, a lot of that you don't share here on the podcast. And that's okay that we don't have to share your personal life per se here. But I think that's what's kind of fun about today's podcast is I get to dive in with you a little bit and maybe open up the eyes of people and take some perspective of your personal life and how that's changing and how you're growing and why that's leading you down a new direction. So I'm excited about that. But anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to explain that further and commend you for this shift and this change.
Yeah, well, and again, it is difficult to, like I said, think about the idea of potentially wrapping up this podcast, especially with
how long have you been doing this for?
Gosh, maybe about like 5 years or something like that. Over like 5 seasons.
Yeah.
So,
and how many episodes?
if I saw well over 300, that's for sure. And
with a ton of guests. I know I've been on here a couple times. A lot of solo episodes. You know, you've put your heart and soul into this, so it's like it's been a lot of work.
Yeah, it's been a lot of work, and it's been great. I mean, just
the connections that have come from it are amazing.
You know, exactly. I mean, and I'm hoping that some of the connections will lead to future opportunities. I mean, it's like I've met some incredible people, and you know, it's just, and it's also just been like really cool too. Also, just kind of be like in an exclusive loop with some of the people I've got to bring on the show as well. I remember. Getting to talk to, like, let's say Jack Carr, and then of course getting advanced copies of some of his books. And I remember, like, and this is a cool story that I'll share here. And I actually went and saw Jack Carr. He like one of the stops of his
was it Austin?
In Austin, yes. It was for his 7th book, Red Sky Morning. Yep. And it was that book tour. And then I had just talked to him and interviewed him for a second time on the show, like 3 days before he was making that stop. And then, of course, I had the copy of the book. And I walk into the Barnes & Noble that was hosting him. And I remember getting all these looks from everyone because they haven't had the book yet.
Yeah, and you're holding the book.
And I'm holding the book in my hand. And
before it was released.
Before it was released. Now, of course, all the people there had ordered copies in advance. And but they couldn't pick them up until like after the event. Yeah. So and so I went to the front counter because we had to get like these tickets to line up to take pictures with him. And then the employee behind the counter looked at me quizzically. She's like, "How did you get the book?"
I remember you told me that.
And so I said, I know him. I know Jack. He gave me the book.
It's called privilege.
Yes. And I think I was literally the only person that attended that event that actually got a personalized signed copy of Red Sky Morning.
Because nobody got the book till after.
Because no one got the book
and they did that purposely.
After. Yes, of course. So, I mean, that was really cool.
Yeah,
I mean,
cool.
That was amazing. And then, of course, I got to talk to both Kyle Mills and Don Bentley. Now, both of these authors have written books for the Mitch Rapp series, which is by far my favorite fictional book series of all time. I love that book series.
Dad.
Yes, thanks to my dad for introducing me to the world of Mitch Rapp long ago. And so, of course, I've read all those books. Like, we're talking like about 20 books in that series. I've read them all. And so, just getting to talk to these authors about, you know, how they feel about taking over that series was just absolutely amazing. So
you've made amazing connections because of this wonderful medium that you've got to be part of. You know what I mean? That you dove into head first, put your heart and soul into, worked diligently. I saw you. We lived together for a short period of time, and I saw you. I saw you stay so dedicated to it and believe in it in so many ways. And you know, I guess that's what I want to say too. Is like, this isn't the end. This is actually the beginning of something new. And maybe it's the end of the podcast. Maybe it's not. We don't know. We're going to leave that open, right? That's why we're here having this conversation. But it wasn't for the lack of trying or putting your heart and soul into it. And the connections you've made are going to help you moving forward. It's going to be a wonderful thing as you reveal and talk more about, and we will here in this conversation, like kind of some of the things that are potentially ahead for you. So it's really cool to see that, really cool to hear about that.
Well, and then I hope that's one thing that people will take away from just this podcast as well. I mean, of course, I get a lot of questions. It's like, well, how did you get, men like Jack Carr? How'd you get this guest, that guest on your show? Because what's interesting is that a lot of the guests that I have on the show have like significantly larger audiences than I do. Like I've had guests who literally have like hundreds of thousands to even 500,000 Instagram followers. It's like literally thousands of times larger than my following count. And so like I get those questions. Well, how did you get them? I mean, it's just, and also because it does kind of beg the question, and some people might be wondering, it's like, well, of course, why would they even consider coming on such a smaller platform like mine? And I think, well, the biggest thing, of course, first of all, if you really want anything from anyone in life, you have to be willing to ask first. That's the thing. And also, it's always something, and I think where a lot of people fall short when they want to connect with people is that they try to think about what can they gain from connecting with people. And it's like, well, it's not just about what you gain. I mean, obviously, yes, you want to gain something. You want to gain that notoriety and, being able to create that good content with that particular individual in this instance.
You're moving forward here. You're always moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But of course, it's like, what can you do for them? Yeah. And then, of course, again, going back to this idea, like I had authors come on my show. Their usual means of expression is through written word. And so here I am offering the means to do so on a different platform, spoken word and in video. Yeah. So that's one way of doing it.
And I think kind of playing off of what you're saying is like, even above and beyond that, like you were thinking about the community that you've built with the podcast, right? Mm-hmm. You want to bring value to them. And so what can you do? The best thing you can do is reach out to the best people to bring into your platform to give great advice, great wisdom, bring them into those people's worlds, which you've done such a great job of. So you're bringing value not only to the consumer of your podcast, but to those people who are coming on your podcast in multiple ways.
Yeah.
It's a great lesson.
Yeah, it really is. And of course, I hang on to those like lessons as much as I can. And I will say this, all the conversations that were on the All Around Adventure podcast aren't going anywhere. So even though
yes, we want to make sure we say that.
Yeah. So even though I'm not going to be like probably creating new content, like I said, this will be a proof of work that will be out there for as long as I am willing to sustain it. I mean,
if this is somebody's first time listening to the All Around Adventure podcast and learning about you or learning about me, go back. Mm-hmm. There's how many episodes, right, that are so value driven, so much good information. Literally go back to the start when you were first starting, and you probably feel stupid even thinking about how you sounded on those podcasts.
Yeah, I'm wondering how far
right?
how far back do I want my listeners to go? I mean, but of course that's
part of the growth.
It's part of the journey, exactly. Yeah. And that's another thing I always want to encourage people to think about too when you're starting a journey is just and we were kind of talking about this a little bit earlier with like the analogy of going to jiu-jitsu, even as a white belt, and of course like diving into deep water by challenging the black belts and everything. It's just no one expects you to be great starting off, but you have to start. Yeah, you just have to start. And when I started the All Around Adventure podcast, I mean, of course, you and I were using these headset microphones. We got the recording equipment. We got a really expensive smartphone recording in high definition. Yeah. I didn't have any of this when I started. I had a recording app on my really cheap smartphone at the time because I was pinching pennies back then. And I just talked into a recording app and I just hit publish. Yeah. I had no editing software. I didn't even know what the hell I was talking about. I just talked about something random for like 10 minutes and then I just hit upload. And then
I don't think it was just random. I think there was some good stuff there.
Okay. I'm sure I was talking about something important.
There was a little bit of meat and potatoes there.
Yeah. But then I had to record maybe about 10 solo casts before I actually was able to get a guest to come on the podcast. And of course, back then it was fairly easy to secure guests because, like I said, podcasting was still kind of like this new frontier of sorts that a lot of people haven't really engaged in with before. And then, of course, starting off in kind of like the travel space, this is back when travel blogging was still very much a thing. That was a big thing. I mean, I'm honestly not sure how prevalent travel blogging is nowadays. It could still be pretty viable. Then again, I don't know. I mean, who reads anymore, I guess, right? So, and so I was able to secure a lot of guests that way because, again, I was providing like a new platform for them to really like come on. But yeah, it's just, the All Around Adventure podcast is still going to be out there in the internet space. It's still going to be on your Spotify. It's still going to be on your Apple podcast. There's lots of video content on the All Around Adventure YouTube channel as well.
Yep.
You go there and find it. It'll be there for you if you if you need some good value, some good insights. Myself and my guests have put out some really good stuff, some really good nuggets of wisdom. It's all still going to be there. So, but it's going to be, like I said, proof of work and everything, and a completed project that I still think can serve many people, if they wish.
Yeah, I love that, man. So just kind of thinking about this conversation we're having, which I love this, man. This is so much fun to me. I want to dive in, there's going to be some personal things here that I want to dive into and, just some longevity questions, like the next projects you're going to work on, some of those kinds of things. We'll dive into some of that. I think one of the first things that I want to dive into, I thought would be kind of fun is like, you're in this relationship now with this wonderful woman. And, I've seen so much growth in you in that time. Like from your perspective, like, how is she? Because to me, she looks like from the outside looking in, like she's such an encouragement to you. She pushes you in the right ways. Like, how do you see that? Like, what has that change been for you as somebody who now is in your longest relationship ever? Like, what's that been like for you?
Well, excuse me. A lot of it is recognizing that this is a journey for the long haul, and it's always going to require you to put in significant work. And that's definitely one of the things that's been kind of encouraging for me, is making sure that I do continue to work on myself consistently. Making sure I'm still going to the gym, still looking after myself, looking for ways to innovate, to make more money, and to be a better provider. Because one of the things I've noticed, and admittedly I fell into this trap a little bit early on in my relationship too, is that I think when you're, let's say in this case, dating, is that especially if you're a young man, or any man for that matter, that's trying to pursue women, you really dial yourself in quite a bit, because it's a player versus player dating market out there. You have a lot of competition, especially again in this era of social media, where if we think about this, and I'll try not to go on too much of a side tangent here, but if you think like, let's say a few decades ago, a beautiful woman was just a beautiful woman in her small town or in her neighborhood or something like that. The only men she had access to is the men that was in her small town or in her neighborhood, and all the men that had access to her, same deal, just in that small town or in that neighborhood. But now it's just that same beautiful woman in that small town could have thousands of followers on social media. And so now the men that's in her vicinity, they got to compete with who knows who, somewhere. Like, I mean,
unlimited number of men.
Exactly. And then let's just kind of be real here. I mean, for a woman who has a significantly large following, I'm probably going to go on a limb to say the majority of them are men. I mean, she's probably going to have a lot of women followers as well, but I'd say probably the majority of them are going to be men. So imagine you're a guy. You make six figures, you do well for yourself and everything like that, and you try to court a woman nowadays. Well, okay, sure, but you're a great guy, and yes, you have a good job and everything like that. That's great, but this guy over in Dubai wants to fly me over on a private jet and spend time on his yacht and everything. So it's tough.
Damn.
So I think for a lot of men, they really have to dial themselves in, because they know that they have to compete quite a bit. And of course, I'm not speaking for all men. Of course, it's just that's just the way I kind of tend to have observed it as of late.
That's good. It's not bad though, right? Mm-mm. Like, I think this is a good point that you're making. Like, being dialed in from the start, most men will do that, right? They'll try to show up in a way that to attract a woman, and they will do a good job early on of showing up in the way that they need to show up for that woman. I think most good men will try to do that, right? But then you get a little ways into that relationship, let's say 6 months, a year, into that relationship. And I see this, I've done this in my own life. I know you have too. Like, you kind of get a little bit comfortable, right? You get a little bit lackadaisical a little bit, and it's not because you mean to do that. It's just like you built this relationship now that does become comfortable in a lot of ways, and that's okay. It's okay to be comfortable. That's not wrong. But then I think what we were talking about, how did you say? we need to remember to put the foot up back on the gas, right? Or keep it on the gas pedal at a certain point, right?
Probably even more so when you get later into the relationship, I would say. Yeah, because
is that something that you've had to learn, like, too? Is that been a big point for you?
Absolutely, because I did fall into that trap, because again, going back to the idea when you're in like the dating market, it's just like, you're dialing in your fitness, you're trying to dial in your appearance, your grooming habits, everything like that, because you want to obviously be viewed as attractive.
Nice, training hard, all the things, going to work on time, like whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, everything's elevated for you when you're in that pursuit stage, if you will.
Yeah.
But then when you actually get a girl to consider you for a relationship, well, then you think, okay, finally, all this hard work paid off. I have her now. And then you think you can kind of just sort of coast from there. But then you start to notice things. Eventually, you get out of shape. She doesn't find you nearly like as attractive, or she, loses confidence in your ability to protect her. If you guys are like, let's say, out and about, and there's something that something pops off. Let's say. Or it's just, you're not surprising her anymore. I mean, like you would get her flowers in dating because you wanted to like look good in her eyes, but now you're not getting her flowers.
You stop buying her flowers or whatever.
Yeah, you stop buying her flowers. You stop taking her out on dates. It's just you get into kind of like this routine, and routines are good to a certain degree in a relationship, obviously. But I mean, and that's something that I had to kind of remind myself to do. It's just, I mean,
autonomy's okay.
Yeah, exactly, and of course. You don't have to like, let's say every single day you're showing up with a bouquet of roses, but every now and then, just think about that. Yeah. It's just, or maybe like gauge like how's she feeling? Like, was she having like a hard day, like at work? Is there something else happening like in her personal life that maybe you can kind of help like shore up and, cheer her up a little bit and things like that. And then of course,
not doing it just to like, take over that autonomy from her life, but just to show up as the man that you are, the leader that you are.
Yeah, and then of course, again, like adding that spontaneity in there as well, making things exciting. I mean, I've done this with my girlfriend a couple of times where I'm like, all right, don't make any plans for this weekend because I booked an Airbnb and so we're going to go out of town.
Be ready at this time and we're going to go.
Exactly.
Sorry, that's all the information you need right now. I will tell you the rest when you need to know it.
Yeah, because and that's another thing. And I've, of course, that doesn't just apply just to relationships either. It's just life as we know it is endless battles everywhere. And I did a solo cast episode about this recently, but I think it's such a solid point, that I definitely want to touch on here. Of course, in this context of a relationship, is just, again, it's not like you can say that dating and actually securing a girlfriend was all kind of like one big battle. Of course, you had to go out and find the women, meet them, go on a few dates, and then hopefully you've done enough for them to consider you, right? That's one big battle, but it's not one big battle and then endless peace for the rest of your life. It's just there's going to be other battles that you're going to have to fight, and I would even dare say that when you're in a relationship, those battles will actually be tougher than the ones of actually dating too. And then of course, going back to the analogy, of doing jujitsu. I mean, you think that once you make it to another belt rank that you can just, then that's it. But oh no, it's just like, and I'm sure a lot of black belts that we know would tell us that, everyone's gunning for them now that they're black belts. Yeah. It's kind of like the idea is like once you're up at when you're up at the pinnacle, there's more and more people that want to take your spot.
The belts underneath you are going to show up in even a better way than they've ever have because you are a black belt.
Exactly. So it's just, and that's the same thing in any other facet of life as well. Like
it's a great point.
Yeah. Like in your job, let's say you get a promotion and then finally it's going to give you like enough money where, you can just kind of coast through the rest of your life. Well, that promotion is going to come with more responsibilities. If something goes wrong, like let's say in the company, it's going to fall on your shoulders. Okay. Even if one of your employees, and then of course, we can reference Jocko Willink here where he says that, he takes extreme ownership of everything. If something goes wrong in the teams, it's his fault. Even if one of his SEALs were to make a mistake or do something wrong, it's still his fault. Him. Yeah, it's on him. So
leaders go first.
And then also you and I we've done some pretty amazing fitness feats. It's just like we both completed ultra marathons and everything like that. But it's
training jujitsu.
We're in the gym. We're lifting weights. if we stop doing that, though,
lose weight, whatever, gain
Yeah.
strength. We've done a lot of different stuff like that.
yeah, but if we just decide like, you know what, finally I built this much muscle, now I can stop lifting. Well, of course not. You're gonna have to maintain that. I mean, again, it's just life's ongoing battles that we have to keep fighting, and of course, this idea of the relationship that's just really what it's going to take.
Yeah.
And I try to make sure I don't lose sight of that, because I will admit I did.
Yeah.
I did there for a while,
And you probably will again in different areas, right?
well, of course. I mean,
It's that check though. It's the check. It's the check-ins.
Yeah, it is, and then
And the men around you too, as part of that.
Yeah, and then of course you're always going to, like, we're all imperfect human beings. I mean,
Yep.
obviously, even though God made us in His image, He didn't make us as perfect as He is.
Correct.
Of course, like, that's just how He set it up for us.
We are human.
Yes, and so you are going to make mistakes along the way. You and I, we can definitely count. Like we ran out of fingers to count the amount of mistakes we made in our own lives.
And toes.
I'm sure, and toes. Yes, absolutely. But I think what the key is here is that when you do fall off the path, try not to make it very long before you get right back on again, because we've fallen off our paths a couple of times. We're going to do it again. Again, we're imperfect human beings, but the key is just to try to make it as quickly to get back on as quickly as possible, because that was another thing I had a tendency to do, like early on in my life, is that let's say, for instance, you're following a diet, and then Susan brings in donuts into the break room because it's a Friday and everything like that. Or someone brings in a birthday cake, and then it's like, oh, well, maybe I'll just have one donut. It's no problem. And it's like, well, I've already cheated on my diet for the day. I might as well go through the drive-thru on my way home and everything. And then it becomes like this downward spiral.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is, if you're going to fall in the path, just get right back on.
Yep.
Okay, if you have a donut, all right, that's it.
Cool.
That's it. No more.
Get back on it. Go for a 3-mile run when you get home, or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, just get right back on it. So that's really how I try to approach things now, whether it's the relationship, my career as an archaeologist, or even what I'm trying to build right now. Because there are some days where you just don't really feel like sitting in front of like the computer trying to like do outreach or to write the manuscript, which is what I'm doing right now for the things that I'm currently pursuing. But it's just it's just when you have those feelings, you just try to get back on as much as possible, as we say.
I love that. Yeah, that's a great lesson, man. It's really cool. It's really cool to see like your growth through that. We've had a lot of conversation. You've come to me many times, like asking for my advice, relationship and like, am I in the right place? Am I doing this? Am I thinking about this the right way? And I've had to check you on those things, and back the other way around. You've had to check me on things too. And I appreciate it, and I think that's kind of it's really cool is like, we're open to that feedback. We're open to bringing those people around us who are willing to give us that true feedback that we need for the true growth that we are looking for. And the other side of that too is like, you have approached this woman in a way that like, she's going to do the same. She's had to check you in ways too, right?
Oh yeah.
and that's, I see a lot of that growth in you. She has, I think in the right way has, helped you, see other sides of things, a different perspective that you would have never seen, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's even part of this conversation we're having. She's encouraged you like, hey, man, you're really good at writing books, or you're really good at writing, or you're really good at this, or you're really good at that. Maybe you should pursue that. If maybe this side isn't working out the way you want it to do, maybe this is a new scene, maybe this is a new opportunity, right? I've seen that with you where you're like, man, had this talk with her and, and she made me think about things in a different way, which is so cool, right?
Well, and of course, and get a little controversial on this podcast, whether people want to admit it or not, is that, men and women, of course, are different. Okay. And, that's a pretty deep rabbit hole that we can dive into here. But in the way though, it's just that, my strengths are kind of her weaknesses and her strengths are my weaknesses. Yep. And, so it's not about us like competing against one another for those, because of those differences. It's like, well, obviously we complement each other in many sort of ways. And, there's like a couple of times where, I mean, obviously, as a man, especially as a man like me, who's trying to increase my testosterone levels, sometimes that what comes with that is maybe, increased aggression. Yep. And, sometimes, and of course, like I'd never really try to utilize my aggression in a way of negative ways. Correct. I try to use it in positive ways. Yes. Okay. It's like aggressively, get this task done or aggressively crush it in the gym and everything like that. But then, of course, we'll be driving along and, here in Central Texas, roads can get a little bit crazy, especially here in San Antonio as the city keeps growing. There's all this construction. Rush hour traffic is crazy. People are impatient. So if someone cuts me off and then next thing I know, I'm yelling in the car, it's like, what's wrong with you? And everything. She's like, just calm down. It's like, we're fine.
Don't tell me to calm down. I'm fine.
Yeah. So, I mean, but then she's right though. I mean, it's like, do I want to risk like getting riled up and potentially doing something stupid, like, on the road when it's not even really worth it? I mean, that is not going to matter. Like, by the time we get home, like we're going to forget about that whole thing by the time we make it home. So, and that's another thing that, I'm reminded of like with her and sometimes, and I even have to say this to myself, is that if it's not going to matter, 5 years from now, don't spend no more than 5 minutes dwelling on it. Yeah. So yeah, she does kind of like keep me in check. But again, it's like, it's a balance. I mean, men and women should be two parts to a perfect whole when they have this union with one another. Right. Yeah. So
it's healthy. It's healthy to do that. So next, I was kind of thinking about, like, you did allude to this a little bit, so I think we can transition into that. Like, you were talking about a manuscript. What's this manuscript for? Are we good on?
Yeah, we're
running.
We're good on time. Yeah, everything's still good.
Yeah, you were talking about this. I mean, I know about this because we've been talking about this quite a bit. This next phase of your life, this next season. Talk about this manuscript. Where do you see that going? Like, what? And we can go even deeper into that, I guess.
Yeah. So my next
excited about this.
Yeah, my next creative project. Now, I don't talk about this a whole lot on the podcast, but it is part of my background. Even though I'm an archaeologist professionally now, my first degree, my bachelor's degree, was actually in elementary education. So I do have training as an educator of young minds, and I did teach fourth grade for a time as well. And when I was in the Gambia and West Africa for Peace Corps, I was an education volunteer helping in a school there as well. So I do have that background. And so my next creative thing is like I actually want to write a children's book. Yeah. And that could potentially turn into a series. Yeah. And now there's going to be some details I won't share just yet. More will come, of course, as we go here. But I wanted to create a series that is going to follow this young boy who's going to go on different adventures. And like each book, the way I'm envisioning it is that he's going to go to like a different environment in each book. He's going to try to find like some sort of MacGuffin that is hidden amongst there. And and then along the way, he's going to be exploring and learning things. He's going to see different animals, and then he's going to see different things, and he's going to get a chance to explore these amazing places. So it's going to be, and he's going to have to overcome obstacles. Yep. Because like some of these places that he's going to, they can be tough, and so he has to muster some courage, and he has to have some curiosity, and that's what I'm hoping I can teach to some young readers. I love that. Through this series. So with that, and I know a little bit of your background, of course, in education, and you've done a lot of stuff overseas. You've done a lot of adventure and travel. So I know that a lot of this comes from your background in adventure and travel and trying to help others down that path, which is never going to go away because that's just who you are. Mm-hmm. That's what you're going to continue to do. But where does the inspiration for this come from for you? Like, I know you don't have kids, but you are an uncle, right? I am an uncle. So you can maybe tell me a little bit more about that. But yeah, where's the inspiration for this idea come from? Well, I think, it does have to do with the fact that I'm an uncle. I mean, and it's not just with like who I'm actually like a blood uncle to, but it's just I have a lot of close friends who have young kids too, and I'm kind of like Uncle Josh to them. I suppose I love them like my nieces and nephews as well.
My kids feel that.
Yeah, absolutely, and so I think that's kind of what it comes to as well. But of course, yes, I don't have kids of my own right now, but I think this is kind of sort of like the legacy that I kind of wanted to leave to a good degree, and is a way to try to help shape young minds and to help young kids as well. I actually there was a guy that I know. He posted something. I believe it was on Facebook, and he was talking about how he was at church one morning on a Sunday, and his kid was crying like a lot. And I think like a lot of people were kind of upset that, he had this, his son crying and everything like that. And then he went to go to apologize to the pastor once it was all done. And then he's like, well, if we don't hear crying in this gym, then if we're not hearing crying in the church, then the church isn't growing.
Yeah.
Because ultimately,
it's not a good sign.
It's not a good sign. No, because obviously, they need like the youth to ultimately like grow up and to carry on those in this case the church.
Yeah.
And and I feel it's the same way too. I mean, whether the tough thing about life is that it is going to end for all of us at some point. I mean,
the truth of life.
yeah. It's just like, I mean, you and I are going to occupy like the centuries that like the century that we were born into, and then this century here. But eventually, the world has to live on through people who are going to follow us,
just like we are.
Yeah, and of course, like Ryan Mickler, he says it best on the All Around. I'm about to say the All Around Adventure podcast, the Order of Man podcast, is that if boys don't learn, men won't know.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing. If kids don't learn, then adults won't know either. And also our future leaders aren't going to know either. So that was kind of one of the tough things about, walking away from the education, system as well is, I obviously kind of walked away from the chance to do just that. So maybe this is kind of sort of my way of getting back in the game a little bit, if you will. And I'm really hoping that with this book series that I'm putting together, and then also the character is inspired by a close friend of mine, a fellow Marine who sadly isn't with us anymore. And of course,
which I love, man. I got goosebumps just thinking about that. I know you've told me that story.
Yeah, and then
it's wonderful.
Well, because I remember, and I'm not sure if I should say his name on the podcast because obviously he still has family and everything like that. I'm not sure how much they want to hear or have this brought up or whatever. But I just remembered like.
It's a tribute to him.
Yeah, so. It's going to be like a silent tribute to him because when he and I were in the Marine Corps, we were like polar opposites. Like, I mean, I was ready to get out and to pursue a different path when my enlistment was up.
Get the heck out of here.
But even before his first enlistment was up, he already knew steadfastly that he wanted to stay in the Marine Corps all the way to retirement. It's
going to be his life, his career.
Yeah, and then I think I draw from him and his courage because he actually didn't have to deploy if he didn't want to. Yeah. Like so. He had like this condition where his head was like abnormally larger than like most people. He was in like the top like less than 1% of like largest heads in the world or something like that, to the point where the largest standard issued Kevlar helmet wouldn't fit his head. Yep. And for that reason alone, he was deemed non-deployable. He didn't have to deploy, but he's like, oh no, I'm going. I'm going to deploy. And so he wrote like a senator or a congressman, someone high up there in government, and he was able to get a grant or get this senator or congressman or whomever to sponsor to have a custom-made Kevlar helmet just for him.
So cool.
So that way he could deploy. I mean, he was that steadfast of saying, I am a Marine. Mm-hmm. This is what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. And, this is my mission. This is my purpose. And he's going to do it all the way through retirement. Yeah. I mean, and he did deploy to Iraq and everything. And, did get to have that chance to serve his country. But of course, he's not with us anymore, unfortunately. But I still, take that lesson.
Yeah.
From him. And so I'm hoping that like this character that I'm putting in these books will hopefully inspire, young readers in the same way that he has inspired me. Yeah. So
that's really cool. I love that, man. What a great reason and inspiration to bring that. And like you said, bring a silent tribute to him and his family. And I'm sure, I know you have contact with his family a little bit still. So it'll be really cool to be able to share that with them. And then, maybe the family has kids in the family you'll be able to, give the book to or whatever.
I hope so. But it's also kind of great just to see like, I've only told like a few select people here. I mean, I got like the name for the series, the cover art, all that stuff kind of, and I'm going through my manuscript drafts as we speak.
That was my next question actually. So where are you in this process? What's that look like right now? Where is that going to go?
All right, so I'm doing like my third draft at the moment, and then
for the first book. This will be for book one.
Yeah, for
the introduction
for book one. Yeah, and also kind of sort of the beta test,
Cool.
if you
Yeah,
will, too.
yeah.
Because I mean, obviously, when you're putting out like a new product or a new series, you kind of want to make sure that
Yep.
people are going to want to buy it and everything like that. So this one is going to be kind of done with a little bit of overhead, or a little less overhead, I suppose. But which also would be good because it'll allow me to get it out there as quickly as possible. And I won't get too much into the gory details, but there's a lot of ways to that one can publish. Well, not just a children's book, but any book for that matter. And for this,
You've got to learn about that too, right?
yeah. So I've been really diving into that process. There's some ways where you can get it out very quickly. Though you may compromise some quality, but there's ways that you can get tremendous quality, but it can take a very long time.
Yeah.
And then, of course, for me to try to get it out there as quickly as possible, it like the quality may not be super duper outstanding. I'll forewarn people there, but I guarantee you that you'll like the story, and then you're gonna like the lessons that you're gonna.
The quality
learn.
of the lessons will be there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's gonna be great content, but it's gonna be a budget build, which of course again is kind of like. Goes back to the journey of starting off anything, though.
Yeah.
Like I said, I had basic equipment for this podcast starting off. Like, of course, you're connected with a lot of people in the music space, and I'm sure a lot of like these artists will tell you that like their first album, like they might have managed to finally get a studio to convince them to give them a chance. And they probably didn't have like the greatest like recording equipment or whatever the case may be, but then. They put something out there. People liked it. Yep. It took off. Next thing you know, they're up on stage, with a crowd of thousands of people.
Yeah. Now there's bigger value there, and there's opportunity for publishers or whatever that looks like, whatever scene you're in. And so I guess for you, I guess what I'm hearing is like this is going to be a self-published a work to start out, and then hopefully it catches on. Maybe potentially have publishers come to you, and maybe in the future that would be the hope, or that'd be a goal anyway. I would assume.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd be cool, man. Really cool. Tell me a little bit about so you had to learn a lot about all this. Like, what was that path like?
Yeah, it was definitely
because you've been talking about writing a book. I know and I don't even know if we want to go into this, but first you were going to think about writing a book. It wasn't a children's book, right?
I do have an idea for a novel that I still, might.
That we can dive into later. Yeah, that could be something you can go into at some point.
Yeah, potentially, yes. Now, the children's book I definitely want to, focus on first because again, it's a silent tribute to someone who's very important to me. Yeah. Excuse me, and then
and it's a good test trial. It's a good start, right?
Right, and
it's not as hard, quite as hard, right, to start out in children's books.
Yeah, and then it's also even with the children's book, it's a weird transition to go from a podcast where I'm doing predominantly speaking a message through spoken word to now written word again.
Yeah.
Changing up that avenue of trying to get a message across is a little bit of an adjustment, and then so. I think at some point, I do want to pursue this novel. I have told a lot of people about my idea. Like I have this idea of this this archaeologist who gets caught in a very precarious situation while on a project in Central America, and basically he's being chased through the jungle by a bunch of people that that want to take him out. And then next thing you know, it all culminates to himself being on the hunt for an ancient Mayan treasure. So I do still want to do that at some point.
Yep.
But again, and I think I'll have probably more room to pursue those types of creative paths. Again, once this podcast does kind of come to a pause, because I have noticed that a lot of these ideas were put on the back burner for a long time because I'm okay, I want to do I want to do on this day, I want to carve out some time to work on the book. But the next thing you know, such and such guests, want to book that time to do the interview because that's what they can do. So again, it's just sometimes you'd like to think that you can handle a lot, but there are certain things that you do have to say no to at times. And I think, again, going back to this idea of kind of putting a stop on the podcast for a little while is kind of where this comes from, because I do want to pursue these ideas. I do want to see if I can create them and bring them to light and put them out there into the world. But sometimes, you do have to kind of set aside some things to make room for those things as well. Because, as much as I have a lot of energy, I try to get a lot of energy just through making sure I look after myself, stay healthy, eat clean, all that stuff. is just, again, I mean, you still only have so much energy. I mean, you start off the day with an energy bar, like a video game, but then eventually, like the more you do, it eventually starts to whittle out. Especially again when I have, like, let's say a full-time job as an archaeologist, trying to foster a good relationship, and then of course
friendships,
and then making sure I'm still connecting with people,
your own time,
and I'm not reclusing myself in any sort of way. And I have family back home that want to hear from me every now and then as well. So it's just, we all have the same 24 hours a day, but it's also like, how do you allocate your energy as well is really important.
You've done a good job of reflecting on that time, that energy, and what that could look like moving forward if you do pause the podcast for a while. And I think that's really awesome. That's really admirable of you to do that. It's really mature of you to do that, because it's not easy to do that. Especially, you enjoy podcasting. You enjoy connecting.
Very much so.
You enjoy what you've built here. So I think that's a wonderful thing that you've said, hey, this is just a new season. It's a new way I'm going to go. So that brings me kind of my next question is, like, what is going to be the best way for people to stay connected with you through this? Obviously, you're not going to be doing any more podcasts for the time being. Could be, we don't know how long that might be. How do you see people staying connected with you, and like, how would you like them to approach you in that?
Well, I'm still going to be...
Is there other things that you're going to be working on while you're working on the book? Is there any new things or anything like that? I know you want to focus on the book, so
right. Well, I mean, of course, I'm still going to be active on Instagram. I'm not going dark on there. I mean, of course, I don't think I'll probably be like as active. I'll probably post like a couple of times a week. I would say. I'm not really aiming to do like start growth or anything like that at this point. And then and also I'd say I've actually been really just trying to spend a lot less time on social media in general.
Same.
because going back to what we kind of talked about earlier in this conversation, it's just, I mean, man, I think social media has kind of gotten away from what it was originally intended to do. I mean, it was a social media platform that was supposed to bring people together. I mean, you and I remember the early days of Facebook, where we had like, I was in the Marine Corps when Facebook came out, and it was a great way to stay connected with like people back home. I could share like photos of like my detachments or whatever I was doing in the Marine Corps, so they were up to date on everything. Now, if I were to, like, let's say, scroll Facebook, I don't even see like posts from any of the people I'm friends with. It's all ads, and it's all just like current event stuff and politics and everything like that, which is just kind of become such a very vile, nasty place and everything. And it's the same thing on Instagram too. It's just like, I'll have to like probably scroll down like several times before I actually like see a post from someone that I'm actually following. So it's not, and again, as the world changes, as we discuss, it's not what it once was. And so,
and you're just noticing that.
Yeah, and so I'm noticing that, and then of course, and you see it for what it is too. I mean, it's the attention economy. They're doing things to try to keep us on the platform, as much as possible, to harvest our attention, to harvest our energy, if you will. Like I said, and as I mentioned, we only have so much of that we can do. So I'm trying to spend less time on social media, but it's still going to be a way that people can still connect with me. And then of course, as I reveal more details on the book, like my Instagram followers especially will see that first when I talk about that. And then of course, and I'll have others.
You have an email list too, right?
Yes.
Through your website?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So
probably sign up there as well.
Yeah. So allaroundadventure.com, just, you can check out that website. Of course, I'm going to be putting together like some info pages for the book as well when that comes out. And then also that's how you can, if you want to connect with me for like any of my services, one of the big services that I'm offering right now, is that I want to do adventure consulting because, again, we haven't even talked about some of my more recent adventures, but, I just got back from Antarctica, a couple of months ago. And, some people ask me, how do I do that? Like, I mean, how do I spend like over 10 grand? Like this is like the first like 5-figure trip that I've taken. And of course, I'm a 5-figure earner as an archaeologist, but yet I came back from Antarctica without, any financial stress or anything. So it's like, I mean, some people wonder how do I do that? Or even as a 9-to-5 employee, how do I, find the time to just sail to the bottom of the earth, you know? And so I do offer one-on-one adventure consulting. If anyone wants to kind of learn some of my systems and how I go about doing some traveling, be happy to help on there. Also,
really cool.
And also, I'm learning copywriting and digital marketing right now,
Yep.
and I really would like to help some of the travel and outdoor adventure space,
Yeah.
that industry,
Or anybody, honestly, like what you've learned. I know you've bought into some courses and some coaching and some different things like that. You've learned a ton. I've seen you do it, and now you're implementing that into your strategy and even the strategy you have moving forward. So I think it's really cool the value that you've created within, the coaching that you can do and how you can help others is really valuable. So,
Well, I mean, it's just it is one of those things that, I mean, what we talked about earlier in this discussion too is that, being willing to like learn from people who have actually like, been there. We brought up the example of hunting like earlier. It's like, I want to learn how to hunt. Sure, I could probably go online and look up a bunch of stuff on hunting, but it's just I need to hear from people who have developed systems in that space that work,
niche,
that actually like work, because I feel like a lot of stuff that I could research like either on Google or AI or whatever the case may be, I would say it's more theoretical like in nature, because it's like I have yet to test all this. However, like let's say in this case is with hunting is that, you're showing me all these things because you've actually proven them in the field to actually work.
Yeah.
So that's like what I will hope to do with my adventure consulting. It's like, you can go and actually do street view images of like some of these places that you may want to go to around the world. But it's just like, I mean, I've developed systems to go to those types of places.
You've used them
to actually like get the most out of like those kinds of experiences. I've developed principles and methods and ideas, and some that stand the test of time of like technological changes and everything like that too. So,
cool, man. Well, I'm getting hungry, man.
I am too, and we've been going for a little over an hour. So.
What did I miss, or what did we miss that maybe you want to mention before we wrap this up? Anything that you want to mention specifically?
Well, it's just one of the things that I always do towards the end of the show is I ask my guests to issue a challenge to the listeners and viewers. So I guess I will do that there. And and I think it's also like, man,
you gonna set some goals?
What kind of challenge would I do for potentially what could potentially be the series finale of the All Around Adventure podcast? Well, I think just one thing I really want people to reflect on, and this is kind of like a big one for me, is memento mori, and that is Latin for remember that you will die, or remember your death, however you want to translate it. And the reality is that our days are numbered. Like the moment you drew your first breath, the countdown started. I mean, we're all going to die at some point. And it's tough to think about that. It truly is. And so here's what I would challenge, like, someone to say, like, right now, is just like, look at yourself in the mirror, or just, you can just say it out loud as you're sitting or wherever, I'm going to die. And like, again, that's not like, to think negatively about that. No. It's just recognizing that is inevitability.
It's awareness.
And awareness. And then also from there, live with intention, like, and whatever it is, and I'm going to probably throw a couple of other analogies in here as well. But I did a solo episode that was one of my favorites, and I got a lot of downloads from this one. I talked about the concept of a sheathed sword, and this is in reference to Miyamoto Musashi. He practiced a sword fighting style called Niten Ichi Ryu, which translates to two heavens as one. And he would fight with both swords that samurai would typically have sheathed on their hips, a katana and a wakizashi, the wakizashi being the shorter blade. He would fight with both. And he came up with this idea that, like, what a shame or how regrettable it would be to die with a sheathed sword. And basically that means that if you die with, the way I kind of translate that into life is that if you die with a sheathed sword, meaning missed opportunities, because I think there is a tendency that many people have is to kind of try to play life a little bit safe, or we fall into this trap where we think that time, it's, that it's almost like unlimited for us. Like, again, we don't want to think about death and the fact that a lot of it's going to end for us. And so we have a tendency to put things off. It's just like we say, oh, well, maybe I'll do it next year. But the next year turns into 5 years. 5 years turns into a decade. Next thing you know, you're at the end of your life, or you're past your prime years. And then you realize, oh, well, crap. I never actually went and did
All
that
you're doing
thing
is thinking about your
that I
regrets.
wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then it's like when I see people who have like huge PTO balances because they don't want to like, step away from their job for a little bit. Like they're so inundated like with their work and what they do to make it to the point where it's such an identity that they forget the fact that you can take vacations if you want. You could go out and do these things. And like I said, I'm in that same boat. I'm a 9-to-5er. I get 2 weeks of PTO every single year. And then it's like, but I still make that point to just prioritize, life. It's just like, I put 2 trips on the calendar already. I'm going to Australia in 3 months, and then I'm going to New England in the fall. It's just, and then I say, if there's something that you really want to do, center your life around that.
Yep.
Try not to center that around your life.
Yep.
I say, let's say in this case, you want to take a trip, get it on the calendar. Don't negotiate with that calendar. If people try to intervene with that plan, just tell them, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to, Europe on that week. I can't go. Whatever." So
stick to your boundary.
Exactly, but that's the thing. It's just we're all going to meet our end at some point in time, and it's going to be one of those things. It's like, are you going to have like a really cool story to tell like at the end of it? It's just there's another saying that I've heard that hell is meeting the person that you could have been while you were alive when you're at the very end of it.
Yeah.
And when I think about that, it's just like, damn,
yeah,
I want to be able to be on my deathbed one day, look back on it all and be like,
yep,
that was a hell of a ride.
Yep.
That was a hell of a ride. So that's my challenge
Dude, I love that.
For everyone is like memento mori, go out there and live.
Yep.
Just go out there and live.
Cool, man. Well, I love that challenge. I think that's a great way to end this conversation. Proud of you, bro.
Thanks, brother.
I'm excited about the next chapter for you. Excited to be here with you and get to do life with you. Make sure you check in with Josh on his Instagram. What's your Instagram?
Just at All Around Adventure. That's just one word.
And that'll stay the same.
That'll stay the same.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody check out Josh there and make sure you go back in time and listen to some great conversations and podcast episodes that Josh has, put out there already. And it's always going to be there. And so we're going to be here along for the ride, man, and see what the next chapter looks like. And I'm excited for it, man. Congratulations. And
all right. Thanks, brother.
Yeah, you bet, man.